Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Alisa, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being with me. You have an amazing bio, and I really want to hear about it. So, the program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you knew that this was the way to go? So, tell us what you do for a living, please.
Yeah, so I'm actually a licensed psychotherapist. I'm a clinician. I work in a group practice right now. I provide services, mental health services to people. I combine spirituality with mental health because my kind of niche is people with trauma, PTSD. Ultimately, it may lead to anxiety, depression, and substance use. I've dealt with substance use for quite some time, working in rehabs as well. And I would say getting to this place was personal experience alongside with my desire to find my
Yeah,
mission. And I
because
feel like,
it's something very specific. It's not like you were walking the street one day and you were like, "Let me deal with other people trauma and so on and so forth." So I'm pretty sure something led to that.
yes, absolutely. Well, kind of my personal experience, I do have PTSD actually, and it's in full remission now. However, of course, we're going to have some kind of, trails of it in the future, even when we deal with it successfully. And I feel like working with our demons or our shadows, right, is something that it's a lifelong process, and we always have to be on the lookout to make sure that we remain well, we're consistent with our practices and caring for self. So but yeah, personal experiences plus again, when I needed help, I was not able to get proper help in mental health. And so I decided to go myself and explore it to help myself. And so that's what led me to kind of being on this mission and finding that I want to work with trauma since I had a long time dealing with it myself.
That's a pretty interesting it's a pretty interesting story you have there. And I don't want to push it, but it kind of is important, at least to me, because I'm an Orthodox Christian, always have been, and this is why we have it
Mhm.
even in the Bible, pray without ceasing. You're right. It is difficult. We all fight our demons, but we have to do it every day. You can't just do it one time and call it a day. It's a daily battle. So I completely
Mhm.
understand. And the third question is, how did you knew that this was the way to go? Now, often I'm asking this question because I'm sure you've noticed that too. People go to colleges, universities, and they have this stigma right in their head that once
Mhm.
you get the diploma, things will be fine, everything will be perfect. And we know that's not the case. Uh, and a lot of people are getting out of those academias and they're miserable because they started something that's not for them. Afterwards, they work with it, and if something's not for you, you feel uncomfortable. You keep on being miserable, and you end up being miserable later on in life with family, spouses, and children. You just can't hide it forever. And the reason I started this podcast is because I've noticed this problem. I noticed that not a lot of people were talking about it, and just like you, I decided to do something about it, and that's why I actually invite people like you because you have a
Mhm.
tremendous story, and I really like it. And I wanted to know how you personally ended up here. How did you, because first of all, if you are to do all those things, spiritual and other stuff, first of all, you're a people's person. You have pretty good communication skills. You're charming. You're beautiful. You could have done a lot of other things, but you didn't. You decided to go with this one. And this is very specific. This isn't something broad. So,
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, it may not be specifically related to academia itself, right? I feel like my journey led me, and to be absolutely transparent, right? I have a lot of things I'm passionate about, and a lot of things I'm doing outside of that. And I feel like for all of us, it's important to find it's not going to be just one area that gives you that fulfillment or like serves as a mission. Some people do go for practices that maybe not for them. I know some attorneys that work and they're incredible attorneys, but that's not as fulfilling for them as, for instance, cooking, right? They love
Yeah.
to cook, they explore recipes. So it's not always the case that we go and proceed and find that mission through academia and getting education because again oftentimes we get influenced by our families, society, what people say around us, maybe what I have an idea of what's going to give me the best income, and all of that is influencing our mind, right? To search for something that maybe will be financially more sane rather than following what we're called to do. That's why having multiple things that we turn to and exploring, again, if we don't find fulfillment in one thing, we can always explore other areas. For me specifically, yes, that was not the first thing I would turn to, and especially coming from, I was born in Soviet Union and Russia, and I moved to United States when I was 18. But before that, again, when we're talking about Slavic countries, which we just shared a little bit, and you've said
Yeah.
we're all from there, right? Uh, Psychology wasn't a thing when I was growing
No,
up.
it
When I was
wasn't. It still isn't. Come on. Like, don't say it.
yes,
I guess that's why I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say it because it requires a lot of work and
yeah,
study, but honestly, like, I've been in this situation where someone's like, I'm a doctor. I'm like, pretty good, man. Good for you. And you're like, I'm a psychiatrist. And I'm like, okay. Two cheeseburgers, one without onion, please. Because
yeah,
that's how we are. It's not my fault. That's how
yes.
we are.
It is what it is. You're absolutely right. And so for me, thinking about psychology, I remember a friend of mine who was from my mom's friend. She had a daughter, and the daughter went for psychology. And I was like, that's such a dumb choice. I'm like, why would anybody go for that living there, right? When I came here, though, life experiences brought me number one, being an immigrant at the age of 18, not having family, not having proper,
I mean, you still look like you're 18.
I wish. It's just good lighting. But yeah, no, going through certain things that it was hard for me to get out of. And I was like, there's something much deeper than that. And only now, since I'm 34, right now, actually, I begin to understand a lot of things that were actually coming or being with me from the time when I was in Russia as well. So this journey of trauma per se for me personally was not just related to me transitioning to another country and another continent, but also it had the roots in my childhood. And I feel like oftentimes when we deny the existence, or like, let's say we don't want to accept the psychology is a thing, right?
Yeah,
We
I know.
we do not acknowledge the boundary we have to our own healing, because not for everybody this will be a solution, but it's worth trying, especially if we're trying to find a solution for what is bothering us. If I'm trying to get better, if I'm trying to heal myself, we have to explore all of the options. We cannot remain closed-minded. And so I feel like that point when I went for therapy for the first time here in the United States, and professional did not understand me at all, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, is that all the therapists like that? I'm like, this is terrible. And so I decided to go myself and just get education to understand what I was dealing with and how I can feel better. So that's what led me to the field, which afterward unfolded a lot of different things. And yes, coming to trauma or working with trauma was not right off the bat. It was throughout my journey, and I was already getting my master's degree when I was guided by one professor because I had a different idea what I want to work. And she's like, no, you don't want to work there. She's like, you are meant to work with trauma. And that's what led me to more of understanding. I'm like, you know what, maybe she's right. And I started digging deeper, and I figured that this probably was the most meaningful thing for me to proceed.
No, it is. And not to mention Slavic people, Russians especially, we're difficult to be understand. Uh, it's just different. It's very different. And I know I've never been to Russia, but all of those 14 Tolstoy tomes, I've read them. I didn't understand them, and I still don't understand them. It's just how things are over there. So, but you're not supposed to understand it. You're supposed to accept it. Different people are different. But yeah, I think you did the right call, and I think that you really into it, and I can tell because you know it's different when you're talking to someone who really doesn't like their job, like the attorney that you said. I'm pretty sure the money is great. We have tons of IT specialists here that are doing pretty well in life. Good money, good homes, and so on and so forth. Those people aren't a happy lot at all.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I feel like, again, one thing to acknowledge is that we are so disconnected from ourselves, from our inner world right now with all of the gadgets. And it's natural, right? We're proceeding, society is moving forward, we're getting more modern, we get new technologies right now. The AI is, on top of everything. And I feel like we're losing that kind of sensitivity to our inner world and what do we really want as well? Because everything is about what we see. Again, our mind always captures information and tries to process. And when we go on, let's say, scrolling reels, right, or watching, binge watching stuff, and again, sometimes it's okay to do so, but we have to realize how much time does it actually take out of our lives. And if it takes a little too much time, okay, maybe I'm really getting further away from what I really want and what do I don't want to face within myself. Maybe it's again, am I at the right place where I work? Am I getting the right education for myself? Am I following the right suggestions? I'm not saying that, again, we get a lot of different suggestions from everybody, but we have to take it into consideration, not to just blindly follow them. And I feel like that's another issue that people just stop listening to themselves. And if I don't listen to myself, I would never know whether this is the right decision to proceed with this specific thing or not.
100% right. And I've said it before, either here or another podcast, I don't remember, but I'm actually thankful for COVID. It was a tragedy. Yeah, it was a tragedy. A lot of people died, no argument there, but COVID kind of hit the brake, you know, because the world was spinning out of control. It was way too dynamic. Every day, new information, and it slowed down a little bit. People were at home, but I was able to reflect on my life, to reflect on the mistakes I made, how to make things better, what to do and how to do it. So, yeah, as a matter of fact, this whole channel was born when that happened. So sometimes we need to hit the brake a little bit.
I think we need to hit the brake more often than not because I feel like it's an everyday practice. Because again, if I'm scrolling Instagram every single day,
Yeah.
then I have to dedicate the same amount of time on sitting with myself and observing what's going on internally. Because when we're too in the space kind of thing, when we're going into this cyberspace plus our mind and spiraling kind of very chaotic, right, space here, we don't even know what we're experiencing. And when we're dealing with trauma, right, bringing that to kind of my specialty as well, trauma is not something that's just going to be solved just mentally. It's also internal process. And we're talking about neurons that form themselves throughout the experience we receive that are traumatic in nature. So it's very important to really dive in and see what are we experiencing? Is there anything that maybe I'm not acknowledging yet? Right. And if we're always just dedicated or dedicating ourselves to TV, to all of this mental stimulation that we receive, we don't even hear what we're dealing with inside. We don't hear ourselves. We don't know what's the right way. So I feel like dedicating every single day, sometime, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, but just that, just this to sit with yourself. I feel like that's a very important part of our own development.
I couldn't agree more. You are 100% right. And I really love how you structure it because that's what I've been doing actually for the last 5 years, plus minus. Every morning after I wake up and every morning before I go to bed, just a quiet time, like 15, 20, 25
Yeah.
minutes. And I don't know if you read about it. There's this German philosopher called Eckhart Tolle. You familiar with
Of
him?
course, the
Yeah.
power of now.
Exactly. I recommend everybody to read it. You
Absolutely.
can listen to his lectures, but I personally can't because he has this insanely thick German accent and it's killing me. I love the Germans. I love the culture. I love everything. The perfect people. I love them. I mean, I love everybody, but still. But I just can't hear it. It's just so thick. I can't go. But I read his lectures, and that's when he says, observe your thoughts, but never believe them. Because that's exactly what it is. Like, is this for me? And this is for if this is for me or this is not for me, and this is where fear comes from. Am I at the right place? But if you just observe them, you get
Hmm.
used to them. They're like little demons,
Yeah.
inside us. And when you see them, you know how to control them or to avoid them actually is a better word. And you are absolutely right. I couldn't agree more that we don't listen to ourselves and we don't know ourselves. And once we don't know ourselves, you can't fix something you don't know anything about.
Yes, absolutely. And you're so right about our thoughts. One important thing, I think observing thoughts can be one of the ways, but I also, we have to, if we look deeper, right, the thoughts are usually inspired or prompted by, let's say something happens, right, and we get automatic thoughts. from the cognitive model or cognitive behavioral model in psychology, we know that thoughts come from our beliefs, right? What do we think about the world, ourselves, other people, relationships, all of that. But they're never learned. We're never born with them. They are learned throughout our
Yeah.
process. So all of the thoughts that we get, if the thoughts are not helping us feel better, if the thoughts are not there for us to feel more inspired, motivated, then we have to, I feel like, dive a little deeper to observe the origins of it, because a lot of people struggle with, I will call it in a very simplistic way, but thought disorders. And I know they're all different for people. And I feel like for some people, just avoiding the thoughts is not going to give them progress that they're looking for. And so going deeper and seeing, okay, where was that originated from? Where did I get that from? Why am I thinking that? And not believing. I remember my first time when I made progress, when I had that breakthrough, I asked myself a question. Like, I was very stubborn. And that stubbornness, again, it helped me to survive because I had to survive, right? So that was my survival mechanism. But again, those strategies or those coping skills that help us survive, they don't necessarily help us thrive. So that restructuring has to happen. And it's a very kind of hard step to take because again,
Yeah.
something helped you survive and you're like, I want to cling to that because I know that's my life, right? Depending on it. But acknowledging that, okay, if those things don't work, so let me look deeper into what's going on inside. And sometimes acknowledging that my breakthrough was when I asked myself a question: what if what I believe in is not true? And when I asked myself that, I started going, oh, okay, let me open up this box that I created for my mind. And then different ideas started coming into place, different insights, because I allow myself to be open. And I feel like that's our free will. If I'm letting myself, because we're free to choose, I can feel stuck. I can choose to be a victim for the rest of my life. And that's fine. Everybody has their own choice. Nobody can tell me what I can or cannot do. Only I can say that. Right. But the question is it serving me for my highest good or not? And if it's not, then why not look for another perspective? Why not look for another way of looking at life, looking at myself? And so that was my kind of turning point.
No, that was perfectly said. And not to mention, you really, at some point, you really have to drop the ego because when you said, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure you know those people. I know such people that they have never said that in their entire life. You can convince them that they're wrong. They do exist. They're out there, more than one person. And the the fact that I mean, if you were born perfect and everything in your life is perfect, then yes, you're not wrong because clearly it's working. But for the most part, it's not that. And you really need to drop the ego to figure it out. And if you're not able to, and there are people that aren't, that's one hell of a life. It's in a
Yes.
bad way.
Yes, I know some people who, and it's so funny to me because I've lived that too. So for me, I'm like, okay, I know that's a step in their development. But when we say, let's say people 10 years pass and they're like, well, I'm the same as I was 10 years ago. There is nothing to be proud of. I mean, I can't say if I'm in my 15s, let's say I'm 15 years old, I cannot look back and say, well, I've never changed from my 5 years old, right? I'm the same person. No, I mean, we naturally have to grow out of our belief system, just like we do when we're kids. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying to change it completely because kids, I feel like, have a lot of wisdom to share with us adults, right? But then we don't want to listen to it and we kind of put it down. But naturally, we got to be growing in our mindset. And it's okay to say, oh, yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And now I know better because, again, if I don't know any better, I may not proceed to do better, right? But if I did open myself up and now I know better, then it's my responsibility to do better. Otherwise, I'm just preventing myself from growing as well.
Perfectly said. And I have a fourth question, and I never put it in the invitation. This is a surprise. I'm sure you can talk for hours about that. But if you can give me just one example, one advice for my audience. My audience is primarily people that are right now in college, in university. They started a job, they're wondering if this is their place. If you can give them one advice, what will it be?
Okay. Well, this one advice I would say it's going to combine two things, right? Number one, do not resist anything you're given. Just say thank you. Whatever comes, anybody says you should do that or you should do that. Tell them thank you very much. I'll take that into consideration and really taking that into consideration. Sit with it, sleep on it, breathe with it, right? think maybe there's something that can be a clue for you if you're not feeling very happy where you are. But then always listen to yourself, and it's never too late to change where you're going. But I feel like getting information that can be helpful for that decision is important. And when we resist something, we can actually deny very important keyword that may be life changing for us for our career. So take information in, but follow to what you feel is right, and you will know what's right. You don't have to convince yourself when you know you're right. If we're questioning something, like, maybe I should do that, maybe not. Maybe there's more thought that you need to put in it, or give it up altogether. So that would be probably my suggestion. Listen to yourself, take information in.
Beautifully said. And with that said, Alisa, thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.